Great. Welcome everyone to today's fifth phone call for DACL for our senior interest group. I'm very excited to welcome you. Once again, my name is Mark Rivetta. I'm the education manager at Bites Back. Many of you have been with us before, and I'm really excited that you're back here. If this is your first time, welcome. We're so excited that you could join us this time around. And as a reminder, I believe that Lou from WildTech emailed all participants links to all of the meetings, not just our meetings, but also those that were organized by DC Public Library, as well as the Vets Group. So if you've missed any previous meetings that we've had, please click on one of those links and it'll take you to a YouTube video where you can watch and learn. And I think it's a really great resource. There's lots of great topics that other groups have been talking about. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. For our presentation today, we are going to be discussing something that's, I think, very important, more so now than ever before, which is online banking and online shopping. And as a bonus, we're also going to be discussing how to select a computer. Now, granted, all of you have iPads in your hand or close by, but even so, some folks need more capabilities than the iPads. So at the end, if we do have the time, we're going to explore that topic as well. But the two primary topics for today are online banking and online shopping. Let me just see if there's any questions in the chat room. Sorry, Yvonne, I see that you're still waiting for me to let you in. I've let everyone in, so I don't know if you're having an issue with your iPad, but I'm just glad that you're here and that you can at least observe. So give me 1 second while I get the presentation up and I'll share it with everyone. Okay, and as a reminder, please, everyone, silence your screen unless you have a question. And we'll get started. I also need to adjust my screen. Okay. 1 second. All right, so once again, welcome everyone. Very good to see you. Very excited that you could join us. As far as today's presentation is going, we're going to talk about online banking. We're going to discuss online shopping. If we do have the time for it, we're going to also explore how to choose a computer safely, securely, smartly, and then we'll take questions. Actually, as in previous conversations that we've had, we'll take questions on an ongoing basis, but please try to save your questions until the end of a section so that we can keep moving along. So this is just a little comic to get us started, a little something that's funny. Clearly there's been no snow on our ground for a while, but still I liked it a lot. So in regards to online banking and online banking resources more specifically, I think the best place to start is actually how to choose a bank. I know that many of us already have existing bank accounts, but if you are considering switching a bank account or opening a bank account to begin with, I just wanted to cover a couple of basics before we get into the actual online banking part of it. The first thing is fees, right? A lot of banks charge fees. Some charge a lot of fees, some charge a few fees, right? So it really depends on what your behavior is, what kind of fees that you should be willing to accept, right? So for instance, some banks require you to have a minimum balance or you get charged a fee. Some banks require you to have a savings account or you get charged a fee. So whatever the fees are, make sure that you investigate them and you ask about them upfront, right? So you don't get charged and get money withdrawn from your bank account for no good reason. Something else though, and this kind of speaks to the idea of fees, is fine print, right? A lot of banks, a lot of businesses in general, right? They'll slide something into your contract. So I know that it can be tedious, but it's really important that you do read the fine print, or if you want, find a friend or a family member who will read the fine print for you, because you definitely don't want to sign on to something, sign a contract and agree to something that you didn't know was there. Another important part when it comes to banks is that you can earn interest in some cases, particularly with savings accounts, right? There are ways to actually grow your money while it's sitting in a bank. And so, you know, different banks have different interest rates. So it's always good to know what those are going into it. A couple other points for the website and the app. And now we're getting more into the online banking side of things, right? Just about every bank now has a website. And most banks, particularly big banks, have apps, right? Which you can access from your iPad or your smartphone or a lot of other devices, right? And so it's really important that when you go with a bank, particularly today, that you have that user ability, that it's very intuitive, right? The different resources that a bank is offering online, that you don't have to really struggle to use them, of course. So one way you can do this, even before joining a bank, is you can either visit that website, you can download the app, or even before you download the app, if you go to the App Store or Google Play, they show you the app's rankings, right? And so let's say you are interested in one bank, but they have a ranking of 4 stars or 3.5 stars. Well, it's not bad, but it's not necessarily good. But then you're looking at another bank and they have a rating for their online app of 5 stars after thousands and thousands of reviews. Well, that's a pretty good indicator that their app is good for you. So that's just something to consider when looking at banks, right? Don't just look at what the resources are. Don't just look at the interest rates. Also look at the website and the app to see if it actually is conducive to what you need. Something else when looking at a bank is to make sure that they are actually insured. A lot of banks, but not every bank is FDIC insured, right? Which means that your deposits up to $250,000 will be taken care of by the federal government if that bank should fold for whatever reason, right? So it's always good to make sure that you have that extra piece of security. And a lot of banks, and I think some of you already know this, they offer a lot more resources than just the apps, just the online services. A lot of them will offer you specific, cashback credit cards. They might offer you, low interest loans. They might offer you the opportunity to insure your house, your car, whatever it is, right? And to bundle and to save money. So when you're looking at banks, you definitely want to look at those options as well. It's not just what are the online resources like, not just what kind of interest rate am I going to get from savings, not just what are the fees, how few are there, but also what are those other extra services that I might be able to take advantage of. So there's a lot to consider when looking at banking and online banking in particular. That being said, one of the ways that you can help yourself when you're looking for a bank or when you're looking for anything really is to use the internet, right? And there's a couple of resources for that. So one of those resources is called NerdWallet, and I'm going to take us there just for a moment. And if you look at NerdWallet, this is the App Store, by the way. If you look at NerdWallet, they already have their top picks, right, of their best banks and credit unions of 2021 that you can browse. They also have a lot of other resources, right, guides and tips, calculators that you can use. But really, the reason I wanted to show you NerdWallet is that they've been around for quite some time, and they're a great resource when it comes to searching and comparing different options. And for instance, you look at them, they show you what the ratings are of these different banks. They show you some of the bonuses that they have. This one has a 1% savings. This one has 4.4% savings, right? They show you different things that you might actually be interested in. What about ATMs? This one has lots of ATMs. This one has less ATMs. So they give you kind of a nice cross section of what these different banks offer, right? But they're not the only ones out there. Another really good option that you can use is Wallet Hub. And I like Wallet Hub because Wallet Hub is easier to go local. And what I mean by local is right when I popped them up, they took me to best banks in Washington, D.C. So if you look at them, they also have reviews. Eagle Bank, 5 stars after 440 reviews. And then you go one down, National Capital Bank of Washington, 4.5 after 27 reviews. Okay, not bad, but not as reliable as compared to 5 stars and all those reviews. So you have all these different options, right? And another thing though is that they have even more filters that you can use. Do you want a large bank? Do you want a medium-sized bank? Do you want a small bank that's really going to give you that one-on-one attention? Do you want only a credit union? These are all things that you can do by using the filter option with Wallet Hub. Another really nice tool that Wallet Hub offers, though, and the reason I wanted to highlight them in particular when talking about online banking, is that when you're looking for a bank, if you want to switch or want to open a new account somewhere, they have a financial literacy test too. And this is something that's really, really valuable because truth be told, there's a lot of things that even I don't necessarily understand or know about finances, right? And so what they do with this financial literacy test is they see just how much you actually know about, finances, just how much you actually know about the way savings, the way checking accounts, the way credit works, right? All these different categories, right? They will test that and show you where your gaps are and then explain what those gaps are, right? So that's just something to consider also when looking at Wallet Hub is taking this financial literacy test. As far as the services that you can expect from any bank online, and this is really key, right? These are the standards, right? So if you have a bank and they do online banking, but you can't do all these things, you may want to reconsider, right? Every bank that is a strong online presence, you should be able to do all of these categories: checkings, access your checkings, savings, transfers, right? To transfer between accounts, loans, get loans processed, automated payments, right? So if you are drawing funds from, a job, you're doing direct deposit, they should all already have this, allow you to set this up. Credit scores. Most banks now allow you to see your credit scores online, right? So all these different things you should be able to see and have access to through an online portal for a bank, right? That really is the bare minimum that they should be able to do, provide all of these items, right? You can also usually see not just the checkings and savings, not just the numbers, but also access your bank statements. So you can make sure that things going in and things going out are being properly tracked. As far as what to do for setting up your account, I'm sure a lot of us already know this, but I want to walk us through this because in some cases you can set up an account entirely online now, right? You don't actually have to physically walk into a bank to set up an account, but it's going to require a bit of legwork on your part to do so, right? So the first thing, as usual, is having that proper documentation, right? You're going to have the social security card, and you're going to have some other kind of ID to verify you are who you're saying you are, right? So that's the one thing that you're going to have and show, but you're also going to have a way of providing that. With an iPad, you can take a picture and you can share it that way, right? With a smartphone, you can take a picture, right? Those kinds of things. I recommend, though, you don't store that information after you've sent it away, right? That's really important, right? You never want to store such sensitive information on at least on certain machines. So you can take a picture, send it if you need to, and then immediately delete it after is my recommendation. Another thing you're going to be expected to do, of course, is to create a username and a strong password. Now, for those of you who are with us way back in April for call number 1, who remembers how to make a strong password? What are some of the qualities of a strong password? Feel free to unmute yourself and speak up.
One of the extra.
Oh, Yvonne, you were breaking up for a moment.
Yvonne Ford.
Yes.
You can use one of them extract.
Yes, yes. So using symbols and numbers, that's a tip.
Yes, and capitalize one of the letters.
Exactly, right. So those are some great tips for the password, right? You remember, you paid attention. Thank you, Yvonne. So yes, use symbols, use numbers, capitals, and lowercase letters, right? So a variety of these options. What's another feature that you should do when it comes to a password that can help out?
Make sure it's sufficiently long.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure it's sufficiently long. And that's not me speaking. Mark Rivera, what is your actual name? The gentleman just spoke.
Oh, you changed my name. It's Michael Kaya.
Michael Codden?
Kaya, K-I-A.
Oh, okay. There's another Mark Rivera who showed up. Sorry. Okay. So yes, exactly. So you should, all passwords should be a minimum of 8 digits, right? So 8 letters, numbers, symbols, whatever, just 8 at least. That's a great point. And one other thing that I want to hear. Anyone guess?
Let's change it every so often.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Michael's on fire. Change it every so often. Keep changing your password, not consistently, not like on every month or week. But yeah, change it. Usually you'll be prompted. But the thing I was going to say is don't use easy to guess words, right? Don't say, oh, my password is password, or my password is 12345, or anything like that, right? You want to make sure that you use a variety of items so that people can't easily guess your password. One more thing that more and more banks, especially, online banks are doing.
Have a backup verification.
That's absolutely correct. Have a backup verification. And we were just getting to that, right? So you want to set up a PIN code. And usually most banks will require you set up a PIN code, because most banks now require 2-step verification. You sign in using your password, and then they say, oh, you have to either answer a security question, or you have to give a number, a PIN, additional, right? So just make sure that you have that backup, that you set up that backup. You can opt out of that backup usually, but I wouldn't recommend it, right? It's just great to have that extra layer of security because it's your money and you want to protect your money. So why wouldn't you just go through that simple trouble of having that backup? So let me just check the chat room really quick. Okay, all right. No questions just yet, but we're about to get there. So a couple of just quick points about online banking. I know that we just covered a lot of information. You always want to select your bank carefully, period. If you have one right now, explore it. Make sure that it's doing what you need it to do. If not, don't be afraid to go out there and move your money to somewhere that's going to store it safely and maybe hopefully make you a little bit more money, right? And also be more accessible to you. You also want to make sure that your important documents are prepared before you try to open that account. And like I said, it's okay to send them if you have a safe, secure connection when sending them, right? You never want to do anything over a public network. You don't want to go to the library and share these important documents. You don't want to access a public Wi-Fi network at a Starbucks or someplace, right? You want to make sure that you're on your own network when you do such a thing, right? But also that after you send these items, you take care of them, delete them, erase them, right? And finally, you want to keep that information safe, like we already said, with a strong password and those PIN codes, right? And the challenge questions. Of course, the secret to that is you got to remember all this information, right? You don't want to make this crazy strong password that's 27 characters and then suddenly, I don't know how to get in. You've got to make sure that you remember these items, right? So just be careful with that as well. I've actually made that mistake, making a password I can't crack. So before we move on to online shopping, just really quick, or not even really quick, a couple minutes we can take. Does anyone have any questions about online banking and the material we just covered? Feel free to speak up. All right, looks like Michael has a question.
Yeah, the Wallet Hub and the Nerd Wallet, are they .coms or .orgs?
They are .coms. So if you go to Nerd Wallet right here, nerdwallet.com, right? And same thing with Wallet Hub, wallethub.com. And the easiest way that I always, do is if you forget something, right? Whether it be Nerd Wallet, right? You can always just Google it and it'll bring it up, right? Nerd Wallet, Wallet Hub. Other questions? Sounds like we got a lot of pros, a lot of experts on this subject, which I'm not surprised. Other questions? Yes, I heard someone's voice.
Sometimes you have to be careful as far as online banking, because sometimes people can hack in and get your information.
Yes, right. But so that's an excellent point, and I just want to address this, right? Usually the way hackers exploit vulnerabilities, it's not by exploiting and hacking into banks, right? I've heard a lot about their T-Mobile was just hacked recently. They reported that 40 million user data, right, was hacked. Or there was a hacking at the Pentagon, or there's, usually it's corporations that are being hacked. Rarely are banks hacked, right? Usually it's individuals who are hacked. It's individuals who have their identity stolen, right? And that's because something has happened while they're online. So remember, going back to our first call when we talked about internet security, it's important to have that antivirus, anti-malware protection on whatever device you're using, right? It's important to make sure that you're using those strong passwords and those strong, two-step verification processes. It's important that you don't click on anything suspicious that you might find in your email, or you don't visit any suspicious web addresses, right? And iPads are really good at protecting, but you still need to be careful yourself, right? Because the moment you would let somebody in, that's when they're able to exploit those vulnerabilities. It's usually not so I want to make this point very clear. Online banking is very safe. Online banking is extremely safe. It's one of the most safest things you can do, unless you're doing it in an unsafe way, right? That's why I say don't do it on a public network. Don't do it from a friend's device or a stranger's device. Make sure that you're always doing it from your own network, safely, securely, comfortably. Other questions? Excellent. Well, I hope you use those tools that I shared. I think.
I have a question, Mark. I have a question. I know someone who found out that money was being taken out of her account to pay a bill on a regular basis. Now, how was somebody able to breach security and allow and get money deducted from her bank account?
So there are now I don't exactly know the context. I don't have full details, right, based on what you just shared, Yvonne. But I think this is important to know. Once again, a lot of the time it's because we do things without realizing it. And this goes back to this point that I made about reading the fine print, right? There was a campaign, a recent political campaign, where people said, that it said, hey, donate now, we need your help to win this election. And the campaign itself, there was a box, a small little piece at the box, bottom of the page, that said, uncheck this, uncheck. Now it automatically checked it for them. Uncheck this if you don't want monthly donations withdrawn from your bank account, right? And so that's really key to note, that there are times where, depending on what the service that you're accessing or the donation you're making or these various other products, right, to read the fine print, to make sure that you are not signing up or allowing somebody to access and to take withdrawals from your bank account, right? But that's also speaks to this idea, there's the importance of checking the information. So, the fact that, you have a bank that you can access online easily, that you can see the information, that you can look at those bank statements, that's a benefit to you. And that's something that should be done consistently.
But would they have to have your routing number, for instance?
No, usually it's not the routing number that they get. It's simply as easy as a debit card number, right? They don't need the routing number if they get your debit card information, which if you submit it.
I see. Okay. I was trying to help this person who discovered that somebody was paying for their car and something else from her account on a monthly basis.
It could also be identity theft, and that's a much more serious matter, and that person really should be speaking with their bank to reconcile that, because a lot of banks also, and this is also this raises a good point, Yvonne, a lot of banks provide you with reimbursement security, right? So if somebody does manage to get into your account, get access to it, steal your identity, they'll reimburse you for those purchases, right? But the sooner it gets caught, the better.
Yeah, she was able to have that done, but it was just very disconcerting.
Of course, I understand. I have suffered from identity theft, as have some of my friends, so I can understand that. Any other questions before we move on to online shopping? Yes, David.
I know you mentioned that you said once you write the information down to delete it. Every time you go back, do you have to fill in the same information, or do they already have it?
So not the information. So let's say you are applying for a new bank account, right? Like I said, usually it requires that you provide social security number and some sort of ID to verify your identity, right? What I mean by deleting is deleting if you have to submit a picture, right? So let's say they say, just take a picture of that ID and then send it to us. Once they get it, it's theirs, they have it, you don't need to send them anything else. Delete the picture, take it out of whatever device you're using, right? Because you don't want you don't want to have that kind of information on your device for too long, right? So that's what I meant by that. When it comes to your own password, if you want to save a password on your device, that's up to you. That's a personal decision. If you feel safe enough, that's great. I save a lot of my passwords on my device, right? That being said, it's a personal preference.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Earl, yes, sir.
Yes, Mark, I just wanted to ask you, if you're not at a bank, do the same thing go on with you having a debit card, like a private session like ACES or check cashing? Is that about the same as the bank that you use?
It's not going to be the exact same. It all depends on what the service is, right? The incentive for putting your money in a bank versus some of these other services, I think that you're referencing, Earl, is that it's possible to get interest if you have a savings account. It's also possible to easily access information about your account online if you go with a bank that has a good online presence, and it's added security. Right, a lot of these banks, both small, medium, large, all types, usually have a lot of security when it comes to accessing your information. So, those are the incentives that I see in keeping money in a bank versus, say doing, money orders or things of that nature. Also, usually if you do a money order versus, let's say, direct deposit into a bank account, they're going to take some money out of it. It might be a little bit, but they're still going to take something out of that check. So I wouldn't do, personally, I wouldn't do money orders. I'd opt for like a direct deposit arrangement.
Well, that's where mostly I pay my bills at is where I go, like a place like Aces, but
A lot of
it's
banks
another
now have a
thing.
service. Sorry to interrupt, to cut you off, Earl, but a lot of banks actually now have a service where you can pay your bills directly from them. As long as you give them the information they need, and they'll tell you exactly what they need, they will take that money directly out of your checkings account,
That's
pay
right.
off those bills, so you don't have to worry about it. And that way, that money is being processed, and you don't have to worry about anything being taken out of it either. They do that as a service, as a free service.
Oh, okay, Mark. But there's one more thing I wanted to ask you, Mark.
Sure.
Now you have the debit card. Do you think it's a scam? Like if you use your money and you at the end and you go to machine MTA or whatever, and it shouldn't shouldn't that be cut off? Like it should come up zero with no funds or something like that.
Yeah.
If you have the car and they keep letting you do that overdraft
So
thing.
that's an excellent point. I'm really glad you brought that up, Earl. Yes, a lot of banks will let you overdraft your check-ins account. Not every bank, right? My bank, for instance. So some of them do it differently. My bank, what they do is if you happen to overdraft your check-ins account, they charge it to, if you have a credit card with them, which I do, they'll charge it to your credit card, right? So let's say I go over my bank account by $5, they will add a $5 credit card charge, right? To my credit card, something like that. So some banks will cover you, right? Some banks aren't necessarily out to get you and those extra fees. Some banks don't care. They want those extra fees, right? So that's a great question. That's something that you actually want to ask the bank is what is their policy on overdraft fees? That's another fee that you want to investigate.
Yeah, you're right. Because if I get $20, I end up paying $20 or $22.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you could have overdraft protection.
Thank
That's if your credit is good enough.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Or David, you can also opt out at your bank. You tell them, I don't want this to happen. When I'm zero, let it be zero.
Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you. That's some good information because, I did that last month and I called myself household shopping and I went almost $79 over and it ended up at overdraft at $114.
That's terrible. That's terrible. I'm sorry, Earl.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's also incentive, as was pointed out by Michael and some of our other attendees, that you can opt out, you can get some different kinds of protection against that. So we actually should move on. I believe that Joyce and Michael both still had questions. So if you could just add those to the chat room, that'd be great. And then we'll address those coming up. But I do want to move on to our next section so we don't run out of time. I want to make sure we get to everything, which is online orders, right? And this is just a little comic that I give for context. I think it's funny, but it's also kind of true, right? The fact is that when placing an online order, there's lots of different ways, lots of different things you can take advantage of. But there's also a lot of different ways that in some cases, shopping online tries to take advantage of you, right? So I just want to, give you some insights into that and give you some strategies to avoid that. So as far as online shopping, the one thing, and this is also similar to online banking, I want to stress is that it's safe. Online shopping is safe if you shop safely, right? Just like online banking is safe.
How do you shop safely?
That's a good strategy. So don't use those public Wi-Fi networks. Make sure that's your own private network. Make sure that you aren't hopping onto unreliable vendors. Go to places that like a Walmart, like a Target, like a Amazon, right? That are going to be reliable vendors. You can store your payment information safely with these organizations. I don't know of a hack recent hack, although to be fair, Target, I believe, was hacked a couple years back, and they help people, sort things out. But typically speaking, online shopping, these major corporations, they have a lot of protection against them to make sure that nothing is stolen from them, none of your information. You also, though, just like with banks and fees, online shopping can have its own things that you want to watch out for. So be aware of the delivery options and the tax. Sometimes they'll say, oh, we'll deliver it to you tonight, as early as tonight, but they have a $5 charge, or we'll deliver it to you within 2 days and it's free. So which one do you want to do? Just be aware of those different options when you're looking at online shopping. And finally, and this speaks to the comic we just had, right? Look out for those coupons, look out for those offers. Because in some cases, I know for me, every time I purchase something on Amazon, they say, hey, you could get $75 off if you sign up for an Amazon credit card. Don't need one, don't want one, have never gotten one. That being said, some people might say, wow, $75 off this purchase, I'm going to get a credit card, right? But then they try to incentivize you to use that credit card, right? Or in some cases, they say, hey, if you sign up for a subscription now, you can save 25 cents, 50 cents, right? But then you forget about that subscription. You don't need that product a month from now, but you still get charged for it, right? And this kind of speaks to that idea of getting charged, right? Of reading the fine print. So please be careful when you are looking at those offers. Something else that I highly recommend is to search for the best deal, right? And the easiest way for me, at least, is honestly to use Google or Amazon, right? And I just want to take us there for a second to look at some of those common tools, right? So if we go to Google, here we are in Google, and let's say we're going to buy vitamins, right? Well, let's say for kids, I remember having Flintstones vitamins when I was a kid. Flintstones vitamins. Here we go. And one thing that Amazon does is they have these ads, right? People are advertising their vitamins, right? Right off the bat, you say, oh, great. They also have, right, the actual official Flintstones vitamins website. But the thing that we want, because we're shopping, is shopping. And you can go straight to shopping, click on it, and now you have a lot more options to sort through, right? Now you really are just shopping. And it gave you a lot of different options. Do you want to buy in store, available nearby? Do you want to buy directly from Google? Do you want to have it on sale, right? Do you want to look at smaller local stores? There's a whole bevy of different options. How much do you want to pay, right? What kind of form? Do you want the gummy kind? So basically, Google, excuse me, will give you all of these different options, but only if you go to the shopping specific part, right? But that helps. Amazon is very similar. So let's say we go to Amazon for it too, and we say Flintstones vitamins. Oop. Let's just type the whole thing in. And here we are. And same thing, but Amazon has a couple other options. For instance, they have the Prime delivery option up here. If you want, if you're a Prime member, they have the different reviews, right? So we can say, oh, okay, give me only the top performing vitamin reviews. When do I want it? All these different options, right? So I think that's really something that's really important to remember when, shopping. Go ahead. If you don't want to necessarily shop from Amazon, and I know plenty of friends who don't want to shop from Amazon, right? You can go through Google and you can find other options and other ways to buy, right? Some common things that I was just showing you, right? The item filters are really key. Wish list. If you want to save something for later, you don't want to forget it. You want to be like, oh, this would be a great gift for my niece or my nephew, but I can't afford it right now, or I don't need it right now. Put it in the wish list, save it there, right? Add to cart. Now this one, of course, we have to be careful about. It's really easy to add something to a cart and forget it's there. And then you go to purchase something and you don't see it and you purchase it. So just make sure whenever you go to your cart. So for instance, let's say, here we are at Amazon. I'm going to add this Flintstones to my cart. So I click on it. Oh, that looks good. It's exactly what I want. I go down here. Oh, look what we found, right? Here's that thing that I was talking about. Subscribe and save. The default option that they're giving me is to subscribe and save. Without realizing it, maybe I'm going to subscribe and completely forget about it. And then they're going to start delivering this to me, right? I don't need this. I don't need that many vitamins, but that's the default that they're giving me right now. So this is what I'm talking about when I say be careful about these offers to subscribe and save, right? If you don't need it, don't opt it. So I'm going to take the one-time purchase and I click on that. and then it says add to cart or buy now, which is another feature that can get you into trouble. I'm just going to add it to the cart. And then I'm going to proceed to checkout. And there you go, right? And you'll get to review all the details once you go to your cart, right? So let me just go to the cart. And it says, hey, this is what's in your cart, these vitamins, right? And I get to review all the information. It's there, fine. Let me go back to the presentation. And then finally, quick buy. I showed you quick buy, right? And quick buy is easy because if there's something that you just need, that you need, price, doesn't matter, or maybe the price is just right. And you're like, that's it. That's exactly what I want. Boom, you swipe it and it buys it for you, right? It's so simple. But because of that, it can also be an easy way to just buy a little bit more than you need. So I always personally, I like to review details. Maybe if you know you want it, you need it, go ahead and quick buy it. But for me, I like to review the details before I purchase something. So we don't need to actually do this activity. I kind of did it already. One other thing when you're shopping online though, and this is key, is about delivery. When you want to make sure that your delivery is accurate, right? In some cases, I have accidentally sent a package to my brother because my most recent order was a delivery to him, right? It was a gift. And then suddenly I order something else and it's still stuck on his address for some reason. So always make sure that you're delivering to your address. Confirm your address, right? The great thing about this also, and the reason I realized I was going to the wrong place, is that I get confirmations. You can sign up for confirmations. So I got the email confirmation and I said, wait a minute, that's not the correct address. Changed it. You can also ask for tracking alerts. In some cases, you can get texts or you can get email for these tracking alerts, right? And finally, and this is really critical, around the holidays, let's just say that some packages have a way of walking off. So it's really good, A, to track your packages during the holidays so that you know when they're coming, and B, just keep an eye out. And if you're going to be gone, maybe have a neighbor or a friend keep an eye out for them so they can just bring them in for you. It's happened, I think, to a lot of us, right, where something we ordered didn't make it. So just, be prepared and be careful. Just to emphasize this point again, online shopping is safe if you shop safely, right? So for me, at least, I like to stick with the reliable vendors. Discounts, they can be useful, but you got to watch out for them, right? Like the subscription that we just saw. I don't need that many Flintstones vitamins. I just need it one time, so I don't need to, sign up for more and be charged for more. And finally, you should take advantage of shopping, right? That's the beauty of being online, is that there's literally everything is available to you, all the different options, right? So go looking for them, right? Take some time to compare and contrast. One thing I also want to point out though, and I didn't mention previously, is that sometimes being a good shopper means just being a little bit patient. There's been cases where I see something I really want at the beginning of November and I say, you know what, I'm going to wait 3 weeks, because in 3 weeks, it's Black Friday. And on Black Friday, this thing's going to be 50% off, right? Or on Cyber Monday, this thing's going to be 60% off, right? So sometimes if you really want to take advantage of online shopping, the best way to do that is also to just be a strategic shopper too, and make sure that you're taking advantage of those offers. And usually, I mean, truth be told, every big holiday now gets a discount at just about every store. So Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, every big holiday, you're going to find the best are going to be the best times for you to go do some online shopping. Oh, this is something I want to revisit. So in our first call back in April, I did mention incognito mode, right? Going online where the cookies don't necessarily recognize your location. The reason this is important, at least for plane tickets, is that if a plane ticket provider, right, whether it be Google or American Airlines or Travelocity, if they see you shopping for the same flight location over and over again around the same time, the price goes up just a little bit every single time. $2 here, $3 there, $5 there. And you might be thinking, well, oh my gosh, these seats must be filling up fast. They're not filling up. It's just that they know you are shopping for this. They know that it's in demand for you. And so they keep inching that price up. So typically speaking, it doesn't happen for Amazon or Google or those things. But when it comes to shopping for like plane tickets, shop in incognito mode. Just a little pro tip there. All right, so I know that there's quite a few questions. Let me go to the chat room first. So keep your hands up, please. So one of the questions that's in the chat room, do you recommend shopping on Facebook or just going to a specific website? Well, it depends. Facebook is good for shopping for used goods, right? So they have something called Facebook Marketplace, and there's a lot of things that you can buy there, and a lot. I've actually sold some products and bought some products on Facebook Marketplace. It's kind of like going to a garage sale. So that's actually not a bad option. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit random or a little bit fun, go to, shop for Facebook. If you're looking for vitamins or groceries, no Facebook. Go to Google, go to Amazon, go to those reliable vendors, right? So that's what I would recommend. When it comes to going to a specific website, so let's say you're a really big fan of Target and you want to go to Target, if it's a brand name you're looking for, I think personally the best way, so let's say you're looking for a Tyson vacuum cleaner, use a Google search. Seriously, just use the Google search and see what pops up, because what Google search, and we can do that right now. Let's go to Google and say Tyson vacuum. And here we are. Here are the ads that I mentioned. Here's the Dyson vacuum. But then we go to the shopping and suddenly we get to compare. So let's say it's the Dyson V8 Absolute Yellow or whatever the vacuum is. We get to compare and contrast these different vacuums, right? And then we get to see where they are, where they're at. Is it coming from Google? Is it coming from Target? Is it coming from Walmart? Where is it coming from, right? Home Depot, HSN, right? It shows you compare prices from 25 different stores. So maybe you're a loyal Target subject, or maybe you're loyal to Best Buy and they're charging $424, but you can get it from Home Depot for $12 less, right? So you can compare and contrast. Or even here, HSN, $400, saving yourself money, right? So just be a value shopper, so to speak. Let me see if there's another question in the chat room. Wait, let me go back. Oh, great. So these are some banking questions. Let's answer those before I get back to the shopping questions. One question is, what is safest, a credit card or a debit card? They're both safe, truth be told. It's not about what card you're using when it comes to online shopping. It's where you're shopping that determines whether it's safe or not. So credit card, debit card, they're both safe. If you want to, build some credit, use the credit card. If you just want to use the cash that you have, use the debit card. That's really what it comes down to, but they're both equally safe depending on where you're shopping. Another question is, what about credit unions? So for that website, I want to show you something. For that website that I showed you, the Wallet Hub website, right? Let's go back there for a moment. You can select credit unions. I want to see all credit unions. I don't want to see any banks. I just want to compare credit unions, right? And some people like credit unions. For one thing, they are all FDIC insured. They are guaranteed FDIC insured, right? And also credit unions typically have really good rates, on some of their products. So credit unions are not a bad option to consider when looking at where to bank. So thank you for that question. Let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. And there were. So another question is, what about incognito mode? Okay, now we're getting back into online shopping. Incognito mode is an option that you have on Google and also on Apple, right? Where you can shop privately. So let's say here I am, you can see my screen. Right now, I'm just online, right? But if I want to go incognito, let me click on this and see it says new window or new incognito window, right? And if I click on the new incognito window, watch what loads. You've gone incognito, right? And Chrome won't save the following information. So I'm on Google Chrome. I've gone incognito with them. You have the same option, when you're doing the Apple Safari. Browsing history, cookies and site data, information entered in forms. Those things aren't tracked. They're not going to follow them, right? They might still track websites you visit, internet service provider, those kinds of things, but it limits what is being tracked. And also look here, block third-party cookies. when on sites can't use cookies that track you across the web. So like I said, Travelocity, American Airlines, these websites that want to see if you're looking at their product over and over again so they can keep jacking up the prices, doesn't let them see that. So that's what I mean by incognito. And that's usually how you do it. For me, at least, using Chrome, you can simply turn it on by opening a new window and selecting the option of the incognito window. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions in the chat room. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the audience. Trudy Broom, yes, I do see your name. Thank you for asking. And let me go to Joyce Forrest. Joyce, what's your question? Joyce, are you there? I see that you raised your hand.
I have a issue that Amazon does. I used to order cream of wheat. It was $2.69. Now they want to charge me $9.59 for the same box of cream of wheat.
Yeah.
So,
welcome to capitalism. Sorry. No, that what most likely is going on. Amazon is trying to incentivize you to become a Prime member, right? Amazon Prime, those 1-day and 2-day deliveries are free if you're willing to pay. I don't know how much the membership. I think it's still $75 to $80, right? If you're willing to pay that Prime membership, the yearly annual membership, then you get it for free. You're not really getting it for free. You're paying for it.
I'm still a Prime member, and it still wants to charge that
It wants
price.
to charge you more for the product or for the delivery.
The product. That's what I was saying. From $2.69 to $9.59.
Mark, I may be able to make some input.
Okay.
Well, just because you selected cream of wheat doesn't mean it's coming from the same seller on Amazon. So you want to look at who you bought it from before and not go to them. You may want to choose a different seller. So you have to look at some other cream of wheat options. They've got more than one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's an excellent point. Thank you for sharing that. But also, I want to remind you that, let's go back to Amazon and let's just have a real example. Cream of wheat, it's going to pop up a lot of different options, right? A lot of different options and a lot of different vendors. So you can go through here and say, oh, well, this one's, $6.12, this one's $24. Well, why is it? So you just gotta do the compare and contrast. Also, if you want those prices, right? Remember, you have the ability to look, right? To select your filters. So you're a Prime member, we do all Prime. You also want it under $10.
Yeah, because what I did,
we select under $10.
I never erased the phone calls. I only had one incoming call and how many times I called them. So email records all that, man. And I've in class to learn how to Snapchat. And I sent her all the copies, how many times I called and how many times they returned a call. And now they're saying that I lied. That if I didn't open the door for the next aid, that they will not send me anybody else.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
The
Joyce.
lady took a picture of the door. I called the lady. The lady said she went to the wrong address. And after that, the lady didn't answer the phone no more.
Well,
so I have a different aid today.
Joyce, I'm sorry about that, but I gotta move on to the next question. Okay, Naomi.
Yes, also Amazon Prime has also Amazon Fresh. And Amazon Fresh is Amazon's is their grocery store.
That's correct.
So you could go into Amazon Prime and find something for $16. But if you go into Amazon Fresh, which is their product, you might find it for $6. So I just wanted to let y'all know that now that they have their stores open now. You have to compare Amazon Prime with Amazon Fresh.
Naomi, that's an excellent point. But I also want to add to that point, right, that you do have these two different categories that Amazon recently introduced, right? You have the Amazon Prime, Amazon Fresh, right? Amazon Fresh or Amazon Pantry, right? They have these different options, these different sections to purchase from. but in some cases, they require a minimum to avoid a delivery fee. Right.
Right.
So I believe for Amazon Fresh, it's like a $30 minimum. Same thing with the pantry. You have to reach a certain minimum. So be careful of that too,
Right.
because you might think that you're saying, oh, well, I'm a Prime member, I get the delivery for free.
Mm-mm.
But no, you don't always. So you got to make sure that you are meeting that threshold.
Right.
Carol, you also have a question.
Carol?
Yes.
Oh, yes. About the debit and credit card. I remember my brother telling me that if you use credit card and something happens, if you report it in time, you don't have to pay the money. You pay a nominal fee. But if you use the debit card and something happens, your money is gone.
Oh, so there's protection with the credit card, which is true. I know
Not
for a
with the
fact.
debit
The
card.
debit card, I think it depends. And this is why I say that. It depends on the bank that you're with. Some banks will offer you protection on the credit card. Some banks will offer you protection overall. So for instance, I did have charges assigned to my debit card, not to my credit card, when I had my identity stolen. They got reimbursed. It depends on the bank. So that's another thing to look out for and to ask about,
Yeah.
to say, hey, is it only credit card charges if someone gets into my account, or also debit card charges? Will that be reimbursed as well?
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Other questions? Now I know that I mentioned the next presentation, right? The next topic, which is, an add-on that I thought if we ran out of time, or if we had enough time, we could go over, which is how to purchase a computer. We can push that. We can absolutely push that, because it seems like there's plenty of questions to still get through for these two topics, which I'm happy to address. So one thing, let's do this. Let me go to see the chat room again. Okay. Patricia Green, yes, I do see your name. Oh, Alice Hayes, thank you so much for mentioning that, Alice. Yes, once again, if your name is listed as Mark Rivera, please list your name in the chat room so we make sure that you are recognized as being here. Any other questions about online shopping or online banking?
Mark, I don't know how this happened, but the message about today's lesson that was sent to my iPad said August 12th. And I think that's why you weren't able to let me in. However, I have the same email to my desktop, and it was today's date, I believe. So I'm witnessing what we're doing on my desktop, but you were never able to let me in on my iPad. And I guess it's because the message said today's class, and it said August 12th, which was, I guess, the last week's lesson.
Yes. So I think that's exactly what happened, Yvonne. And just so everyone is on the line, right? And this kind of speaks to the idea of devil being in the details, so to speak, right? Making sure that we read the fine print. It may be the email that you accessed is that email for last week, depending on when the send date is.
I have the same email address for both, but for some reason on the iPad, it says August 12th. And you were never able, it kept saying the host will let you in shortly, but you said you never saw me waiting in the waiting room.
Correct.
And I guess I thought it was because the email that came I think it came today or yesterday, but it said August 12th.
Yeah, it must be for the last week's.
Yeah, but why? I mean, how did that happen?
I honestly don't know, Yvonne. You'd have to ask whoever sent that email, which I think is Wild Tech.
Yes, well, I'm bringing you up on my desktop, and I think the email, the date was the 19th, which is today. But I just can't understand how I got a different date for the iPad.
Well, the important thing is you're here today, Yvonne, and I'm glad you are.
That's how I'm looking at it, but I just couldn't figure out why that would happen.
So just it is, just really quickly, it is, I believe, 1:05 now, or excuse me, not 1:05, 2:05, 2:03, and so we have approximately 12 minutes left, but it looks like we're don't have too many more questions, but I don't want to cut it short just yet. Are there any more questions or any more concerns that you'd like to address about online shopping or online banking before we part?
I'd like to know if the incognito option is available
It is.
on other things as well when you don't
Yes.
cookies.
So yes, so let's go to the App Store. Let's go to here we are at the Apple App Store, and we can actually search for incognito role, right? Because I know for a fact that Apple has private browsing mode, right? They call it something different though.
It's called private. If you go to Safari and you
There you
click
go.
on the plus sign, that will put you into private.
Michael, I'm gonna hire you as my assistant.
And wherever you go,
Uh-huh.
you'll be incognito, no matter what it is, where you go.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Michael.
But you must go to the App Store and put
You
that.
you don't have to go to the App Store for it. No, you can, as Michael pointed out, it's just going to the Safari app and you can select it when you're there. Other questions
It's right
before
there
we
at the
part?
top of your screen on the right-hand side when you open up the things. When you open up Safari, you will see it right there at the top of the screen on the right-hand side, let you go into private mode.
The plus sign.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it the plus sign? I can't remember now.
it's a plus sign.
Any other questions? Oh, okay, let me just check the chat room one more time. It looks like that there's a question about passwords.
Yes,
Yes, who's asking the question about passwords?
Alice. Alice is asking.
Great.
So
Alice, what's
my
your question?
question is, where do you suggest we save passwords? In a separate, on a separate sheet in a file, a hard copy file, or on our cell phone or something like that?
Just one, I'll answer that question. Alice, what's your last name so I can capture this? I'm going to just write it in the chat room.
Hayes, Hayes.
Okay, so there's a couple of options to store your password, right? First of all, you can store it on the browser itself, right? So Chrome will allow you to store passwords. Safari will allow you to store passwords, right? Safari will actually also has an option that it will suggest passwords for you. If you don't want to create your own password, it'll generate these very complicated passwords, and all you have to do is just have your one master login and just make sure that you're in, and it'll take care of it for you, right? There's other options like there's actually what's called password vaults. One password vault that we actually use, that I use, is called LastPass. All right, and these are places, they're password managers that you can go in now. Granted, here's the thing though, of course, as all websites, right, all places that you might go to and have a password, you're going to need a backup. So if you ever get locked out of your vault, you'll still be able to get in should you need to by emailing or texting yourself, right, to say that, oh gosh, I forgot my password, right? But there are free options. LastPass is a good free option. That's what I would recommend. But there are other ones out there, right? Password vaults. So you can either do it on your browser or you can do it in your using online vault. One thing I don't recommend, and I know some people do this and it's okay, but I don't recommend it, is I know some people like to keep a page, right? An actual physical copy of their passwords, right? To write them down, keep them in a safe spot. You can do that if you want to, but I don't recommend it just because I hate the idea of somebody finding all my passwords and then immediately having access to everything that I have.
Okay, so LastPass.
What about storing them in the cloud?
Storing them in the cloud is fine. I
Yeah,
personally,
that's what I
I'm
do.
okay. Like I do save some, like, like I said, on Google Chrome, I do save some of my passwords. I know some people who save some of their passwords, on Safari, and that's fine. You can store them in the cloud if you trust them. For me, at least, there's a couple of passwords I never save, like my bank account, like my
Right.
online bank. I don't save that password anywhere. I always want to be typing that in, just because I don't. That's just my extra level of privacy. It's always going to be up here.
So you, LastPass is a vault, is the type of vault
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of
Okay.
like, it's kind of like saving it in the cloud, right?
in the
You're,
cloud?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
Mike again.
Hey,
I just want to I'll let folks know that I just use the simple password manager that's already on the iPad. And as you say, it generates very complicated, hard to break numbers.
Yep.
It generates it and then saves it. I don't even have to look at it. And
exactly.
every time I go to that site, it pops up and it lets me into that site.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also want to say this, if you all want to learn how to use that, don't worry, you don't have to email Michael, but there is that phone number that you have access to for DACL support, for the senior interest group support.
Okay.
So with that phone number, you can call and they can teach you how to do that. Take full
Thank you.
advantage of those folks.
Great, great. Will that continue after September?
I don't know. We're working on it. We're seeing if it can continue. I mean, I'm just going to be very honest. September is the last scheduled date for all of us, but we're seeing if the program can continue because we think it's very, useful for everyone.
And what is that date in September? What's the last date in September?
So let me. I don't know. Truth be told, because the DC Public Library, DCPL, they have their presentations on the 3rd to last Thursday. We have our
Okay.
presentations on the 2nd to last Thursday, and Bet's group has
Okay.
their presentations on the 3rd to last Thursday. So that's
Okay,
what we always do.
okay, okay, last Thursday of September. Yeah,
That will be the last of that is scheduled right now, the last Thursday of
Okay.
September. Yes,
thank you.
you're welcome. All right, it looks like we still have 5 more minutes. I'm happy to answer any more questions or have Michael answer any more questions for me.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Michael, do you-
Michael, you got a job. Michael, you
Oh,
got
okay.
a job.
No, I love that we're helping one another out. Michael, sure. What's your question?
Can I share a recording of one of these sessions? My older sister who lives in Maryland. And
Absolutely.
Is
Absolutely.
there a share feature when
I
when I look at the recording? Will there be a share feature?
You can just share the link. So there, I believe that WildTech several days ago sent an email that has all the recordings, all the current YouTube links to all the current recordings. Feel free to forward that. Forward that to your sister, forward that to friends, forward that to family, whoever you think can benefit from these classes, share away, because the more people who have this information, the better.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
Ricardo, it looks like this will be our last question. Ricardo, you just made the cut. How can I help you?
Yes, sir. I was going to ask you, was that going to be the last question? Do I have to go somewhere?
Go somewhere
My
for.
question was, is it right for me to sign off? And will I? And is this like the regular iPad class where we get counted for being here?
You will get counted. Yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
just
So
let.
you have my name?
I do
You
have your
have my
name.
name.
It's up there. I see it. Thank you for registering. You can go if you don't need if you don't have any more questions. Absolutely.
Okay.
Mark.
Have a great,
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a great day.
You too, Ricardo. Thank you.
So Mark, why does my name go away? Sometimes it's there and sometimes it goes away. Is there a way I'm supposed to put it there?
That's interesting. I don't know. What is your name?
Alice Hayes.
Oh, Alice. So I'm gonna write it in right now, and hopefully it will stay.
Where do I write it if it's not there?
So
Or-
I believe I just wrote it in for you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So yeah, it's the ellipsis. There's 3 dots that appear in the small screen if you hover over it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
212. Any more questions?
Oh, that's it.
No more questions. Are you sure? Okay, going once, going twice.
Valerie Ramsey's name?
Say that one more time.
Do you see Valerie Ramsey's name?
Valerie Ramsey. I do, Miss Ramsey. Yes, I see your name. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
And
you.
there is a hand raised, so this will be our last question. Where for the hand raised, who just had their hand raised? It was someone listed as me. No. All right. Well, looks like that's all our questions. I just want to say it's been a pleasure as always. I really enjoy our time together. I think you all have great questions. You all have great energy. And I just hope that, you know, you learned something of value today. As always, I look forward to next month's presentation, which will be on voter registration. So that's going to be a great topic, particularly because it's in advance of November and then upcoming elections. So we look forward to seeing you next month. If you have any questions before then, please feel free to email me. Let me put my email in the chat room for everyone to see. Give me one moment. emeryvera@biteback.org. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions, and have a great day, everyone. And like I said, if you have any other questions before our next meeting, please feel free to reach out. Take care,
Mark,
everyone.
thank you
Yes.
so much. It
Oh,
was
thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, Bite Back.
Wonderful.
Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Thank you.